And then as far as how you sew them, I'll kind of go through that a little bit here, but you can see I started these two little critters. So we've got the cat and we've got the owl. The owl, I started, put its eyes, its beak. The first thing you're gonna do with your kit is you're going to do the face, because it's a lot easier to sew those on before it's stuffed. So you can kind of reach in and sew. So with the cat, you can see I haven't stuffed it, I haven't sewn the top. I just started adding the facial features first. So I laid it out kind of where I wanted it. You can pin, I like to pin the pocket and the nose on so it kind of stays in place while I'm sewing. And then I just sew them down. So I decided where my nose is gonna go, my pocket first, to kind of arrange the space I need for that. Pin those down, and then I just did a simple whip stitch to attach the pocket. And again, leave the top open. This is totally optional. I just wanted to show you, you can add more stuff. If you like to embroider, you can add little beads. You can get as fancy as you want. Totally don't have to, but you could do that. Add a little decoration to the pocket or even to the animal's body itself on its little bottom or its back. Go crazy if you want. Have fun with it. And then I, again, used the whip stitch again for the nose, and I added little whiskers. And this one I decided to see what it would look like winking. So I think that's pretty cute. So I added the eye, and then I just did a little stitch to add a little winking cat instead of the two eyes. And all of this, again, I did it before I sewed the top so that I could go in and out very easily. So attach the face first before you start putting the body together. Okay? And then I also just kind of positioned the tail where I thought I wanted it and pinned that down. As you can see, I first attach the tail pretty securely there, and then I'll go through and I'll do my whip stitch to attach the tail. And then after I stuff it, I think I'll position the tail exactly where I want it, and I'll probably put like maybe a little hidden stitch there. Maybe I'll put a little hidden stitch up here. I can kind of decide how I want the tail to go after I stuff them. So that's the first step, is to get the face positioned and then sewn on to your little critter. So after you do that, you will then do a blanket stitch. And I think doing the top is easiest because it's gonna be a lot easier to stuff it up this way and then close at the bottom at the end. So start at the top in the corner here and just do a simple blanket stitch. If you're adding little tendrils or different things, you'll want to get them secured under your blanket stitch there. But you're just going to go across, simple, blanket stitch in the top. Once that's done, you're going to come down to the bottom, and this is the part, as I was saying, like you want to maybe use your needles because it's going to need to be kind of positioned and trimmed. So I kind of find like the lengthwise place where that goes so that it's at least at one corner, and then I'll pin that corner, and you'll probably reposition this a few times, and then I'll kind of go across and pin that roughly where I think it needs to go. Again, I'll probably adjust it a little as I go, but I want to make sure that I get it so it comes across to the sides at least. And if you find that your bottom piece is just not fitting at all, then just let me know. Or if you happen to have wool sweaters, or you're able to, you know a little bit about sewing and crafting, feel free to find another piece of wool sweater or even felt that you can position, put in there for the base instead of what I sent you. I kind of just guess at the shape and size of those when I add them to the kit. You can't really know until you're sewing it, I think. Okay, so see, I roughly pinned that. So I just want to make sure it's not too caved in so that it doesn't kind of buckle this way when he's standing up. I want it to be kind of, imagine what it'll be like when it's stuffed, how it'll be sort of flat and how it can sit like that. So you can see I've got some parts that overhang a little bit here, but we'll trim those off as we go. So I'll probably start on one of the sides, and so I'll take that. I'll just trim my bottom as I go. So I'll pin that back. And then I would start sewing with that same blanket stitch. I would start and go across. I can take my pins out as I sew. I can trim as I sew across, and I'm gonna sew a little more than halfway across. So I'm gonna keep sewing till I get probably about 3/4 of the way, like I did here with the owl. And I trim and position as I go. And then when I get here to about 3/4 of the way, I'm gonna stop, because now I'm going to want to fill my critter with my wool. And the wool that came with it, don't leave it all bunched up, and don't wad it up or else it'll look really bumpy and kind of lumpy, ugly in there. So kind of pull it out and take some pieces. It's better to work with these kind of smaller, wispier pieces. And you're gonna want to stuff up into those little ears, or whatever owls have, those little tufts on their head. So you're gonna wanna get those up there pretty good. You wanna stuff it pretty firmly so it stands well, but you don't wanna ruin your stitches. So make sure when you're doing your blanket stitch that you do some nice, tight, pretty small stitches so that the fluff doesn't come out. The worst thing with these kind of, the worst mistake you can make is just to make your stitches too big and too loose, because then the fluff, the batting is gonna come out. So try to get some nice, small, even, tight stitches. So I'm just gonna use my blunt side of my chopstick to get that up in there pretty good. Again, not too hard, because you'll ram it right through your stitches, and we don't want that. We just want it tight enough to where it is gonna stand up nicely and feel really nice and fairly firm. We want it to be soft but firm. So I'm just gonna keep taking pieces. I like to do several smaller pieces rather than jamming a whole big wad in there. And then if you see little divots happening, just feed that up there. Okay, and we'll just keep adding. And keep adding. If you don't have enough batting, let me know. I can get you more. I tried to kind of estimate how much you'd need. And you can always pull and loosen it out. Like if you get it there way too firm and you run out, you can just loosen it up and fluff it out, and it'll fill out a little more. Or again, if you have your own wool batting, you can feel free to use that, but please don't use polyfill. Even if you get to this part and you don't feel like stuffing it, or you don't think you're gonna have enough stuffing, you can return the critter, and I'm happy to stuff them myself, or even finish it up. Like if you're not comfortable finishing up, closing it up, that's fine too. I can finish stuff. I don't mind doing that at all. I kind of like it because it feels like I get a lot more done when I'm finishing a bunch of people's pieces. So we're just stuffing it so it's getting firm, and as you see, we're getting down here to the bottom. We want it to be full enough to where it's gonna stand up. So I'm not pushing it in real tight there, but I'm just kind of trying to flatten it out. And then you can kind of test it out to see if that's gonna like stand up. And look, there it is. How cute. So once I feel like I got a good amount in there, I'm just gonna resume my blanket stitch. Oop, let's see if I didn't get it all tangled here. So I'm gonna resume my blanket stitch and keep on kind of trimming or repositioning that edge as I need it. And if you need to review your blanket stitch, there's so many tutorials that you can go and look up and remember how to do a blanket stitch. It's pretty simple once you just look at it and kind of get going with it. I know sometimes I'll just forget it first, but once I get going, it is easy peasy. So we'll finish that. Sew up the rest of the bottom. Like I said, positioning as we need to, trimming a little bit here and there as we need to, getting that all sewn up and squared away. And then at this point, pretend like I finished that, tie it off, and then I think I will add my wings, because now I can kind of see a little bit better where I want them. Like if I want them to be more on the side or the back, I can do that easy enough now. Same with the cat's tail. you could add that after. You could probably do the whiskers after too, and the little mouth on the cat if you wanted to, if it's easier for you to do it that way. Because see, pretend like it's not attached there. But see, I could easily go from under the wing there and pull it up and just do a nice little, you could just do an X. You could do the whip stitch again around just the top or part of it. I think it's kind of fun to have some of it hanging off like that. Or even I usually just do a nice sturdy X there, and then the wing can kind of move around and it looks a little more three-dimensional. If you want to position it and tighten it down, you know, tack it down, you can. Really, like I said, use your creativity. That's completely fine and encouraged. These are meant to be one of a kind, unique, quirky. I think everyone feels a little insecure when they're first doing these things for winter fair or for school, but trust me, you're going to be your own worst critic. Everyone else is just going to think they're adorable, and everyone's going to people are going to find the one that speaks to them. So they all should look different, and that is good. So feel free to really just trust yourself, go with your instincts. However it looks, it's going to be wonderful. If you're having any major problems, like your stuffing's coming out or you can't get your stitches right, let me know about that. But other than that, I promise we're going to love these. So have fun. I think that's it.